Hello and welcome to From Field to Skin, a series of interviews chronicling Ash Alberg's adventures in the Canadian fibre shed. Our fourth episode features Laura from Twin Oaks Farm and was recorded in May 2018 in person on Treaty 3 territory in Ontario. You can find Twin Oaks Farm online on Instagram at Twin Oaks Farm Fiber, Fiber, or visit twinoaksfarm.ca. For more, follow at From Field to Skin on Instagram or visit fromfieldtoskin.com. Great. Okay. So I'm here with Laura at Twin Oaks Fiber Farm / farm in general, I've discovered. And I might end up like accidentally dipping in and out, but it's mostly you. Okay. And I'll do like a proper intro for the actual thing. But hi, Laura.
Hi.
So I've just wandered around your property and driven around in a tractor with the sheep, which was great. And then pet the dogs and pet the horses. Didn't pet the moo cows. Pet some of the sheep, pet the cats.
Yeah.
We got a lot of creatures.
There's a lot of stuff going on here.
But you have breeds of sheep that are specifically for fiber.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I came to sheep farming because Robin got me knitting, and then we couldn't find any local wool to knit with, which was sort of a bit of a disaster for us.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd get some sheep.
The logical solution.
Logical solution to that problem was to get some sheep. So Robin got 2 sheep, and then I found a flock of sheep. The lady was going to retire from fiber farming.
Yeah.
So I bought 20 sheep.
Start small.
So my husband is a farmer,
Okay.
right? So he doesn't believe in starting with like 2 creatures. Like, that's a waste of time. He thought 20 was a waste of time. He was like, you need at least 50 sheep. Like, come on. And I was like, whoa. Let's make sure that I can survive lambing 20.
Yes.
So we started with a flock of Romney sheep that have been selected for like 20 years for fiber quality.
Wow. That explains why it's so nice.
Yeah. So I am reaping the benefits of the 2 shepherdesses before me.
Perfect.
That had a very keen eye for a good fleece.
Nice.
So we've since added some animals for some other flocks.
Mm-hmm.
So we tried a little bit of Rambouillet the first year. So we still have some Rambouillet Romney crosses. We don't have any straight Rambouillet anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because we can't process their fleece here in Ontario.
Okay.
Which is a problem. And second of all, they were too high strung for me.
They're really big, right?
They're big and they were wild. And like the Romneys, like so they're pretty quiet.
Yeah.
And the BFL are like want to be in your pocket.
Yes.
So then I had these like spun creatures, and I was like, I can't. This is not right. Like they would try to jump out of the pen. They would try to jump over you. It was
oh my God.
no good. So they found new homes.
Yes.
And so we do still have a few crosses, and they're a little bit more flighty than the other ones, but workable.
Yeah. So you can actually tell that much of a difference between. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I have one Rambouillet BFL cross,
Okay.
which was sort of an oops. But her fleece is fantastic.
So you keep her.
And she's black. So we keep her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that I went on that tangent, I don't remember what the question was.
I don't know either. I think technically we kind of skipped over the first usual question, which is tell us about your personal fiber journey. So, okay, so you guys wanted to knit and couldn't find local wool. Why, like, were you farmers to begin with?
So,
and then,
right.
like, how did
Okay,
that work?
So my husband is a farmer.
Okay.
I went to school for agriculture. I grew up in town.
Okay.
I worked in the agriculture industry for 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was not new to me. And we'd had this farm, and we'd had creatures here. We'd had beef cattle, we had the horses. I've always ridden horses.
Mm-hmm.
So the sheep thing seemed like,
Why not?
we can do that.
Yeah.
Why
They're
not?
smaller, it should be fine.
Yeah, it should be fine. You can raise beef cattle and you can raise horses. Why can't you raise sheep? Seemed like a logical progression.
So then I guess it was the fiber bit, like the knitting and
Right. So
And
that
where
was
else that
sort
came
of
later.
the driver.
okay.
Yeah, it was the knitting, and we couldn't find anything local to knit with, and
Mhm.
so our solution was to get sheep.
Natural solution. I love it. So
And that was, I think, the first year that Upper Canada was really kind of together, because
Okay.
that was actually where I found the ad
mhm.
for these fiber sheep.
Cool. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have cake in my mouth. So, I guess fiber shed seems like a natural solution then, because you've already been engaged with agriculture for so long that you, like, I'm sure the local food movement, like all of that
Yeah.
has just been part of your life.
Right.
So, of course, fiber would also be, because it's still agriculture related.
Yeah.
So, what do you think stops other people? Like it seems as though, even though for you it was a natural progression of, I'm a farmer, we are farmers. If we want fiber to do things with, then we are going to raise that fiber ourselves. Why do you think that there's a disconnect with other farmers who are also fiber related or who are interested in fiber? Because I feel like there's like the urban rural divide is kind of like a natural one that everyone's like, yeah, of course you don't understand the process of raising these sheep, you don't know that the farmers are out there, so of course you're going to just go to the yarn store, and if the yarn store doesn't have local wool, then you wouldn't use it, and so that makes sense. But what do you think stops folks in rural settings from engaging with the fiber shed when they could be doing that presumably easier?
I think a part of it is that there's not a lot of education out there on, like, how to get sort of started in it.
Right.
Right? Like, this
Yeah.
was completely a learn by doing experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And that is all it's been. There's no manual that says, okay, you want to start a fiber farm? This is how you do it, right?
Right, yeah.
And these are the mills, and there's no that doesn't exist, right?
Right, totally.
And the fiber shed's starting to pull some of those resources together, like the list of mills and all of that stuff. But
Yeah.
I think one of the daunting things for people is if they get 2 sheep, they first of all have to find decent fiber sheep.
Right.
Then they have to find somebody to shear them that actually knows anything about shearing a fiber sheep, not
Right.
just getting fleece off a sheep.
Right, yeah.
And then they have to figure out how they're going to skirt it and wash it. And then they have to figure out, oh, I'm not going to just take it to the mill and they're going to call me next week and it's going to be ready.
Right.
It's like a 6-month to 12-month waiting list to get into the mill.
Right, which explains why we were just at Romy's, and she had sent her first batch, which was huge because she's got a commercial farm,
Yeah.
down to the States. Like, she sent it to Michigan
Just
to
get
get
to
done.
Michigan. Yeah.
And I guess it was just so much faster to get done, and that's the reason for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have a bigger mill in the US.
Yeah.
And if that, but the same thing, like they will have, like the bigger mills like that will have a minimum lot.
Right.
And if you have 3 sheep, you're not
There's
going to
no
make
way.
the lot.
Yeah.
So then you can't get into those mills.
Right.
And all of the small mills are like backed way up.
Right. So you're kind of,
So you're kind of stuck.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa. But you decided to do it anyway. I love it. I feel like somebody needs to write like a great big manual on how to start, because I like for Anna and Long Way Homestead, it was the same thing. Like when she got here and started having conversations with people, like she started with a small flock. I think she started with only, oh, I'm gonna get this wrong, I'm sorry, Anna. I think it was only like 8 of one breed and like maybe 6 of another.
Yeah.
So, like, also not that many.
Yeah.
And people, like the farmers who had been farming forever, were like, why are you bothering?
Yeah.
And then everyone else was like, well, I've thought about it, but I've never looked into it. And so she's kind of just like trying it out and seeing. But then once she was here and having conversations with people, there were a lot of people who were really interested in starting, but only with like 2 sheep.
Yeah.
And wanting small, like not wanting huge amounts, but wanting
Yeah.
to be able to be growing their own fiber, not necessarily at any sort of commercial level, just to have that connection.
Yeah.
And the resources are like non-existent.
No. And I have people call me and they're like, okay, well, we want to buy like 4 lambs and, you know, we want to raise them for a fiber. And I'm like, okay, so, you know, you need to get on the list and you need to, this year and whatever. And they're like, oh, that's too much work.
Right. Yeah.
Like they want the magical fleece fairy to just...
Suddenly you
Poof.
have this clean fleece
There's
that's
this
ready to...
clean carded fleece and you can just sit and spin it in this idyllic setting. And there's no manure to deal with and there's no parasite issues and nobody ever gets sick and nobody ever dies.
Yeah, there's no frothy bloat.
It doesn't happen like that. It's farming,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's the first thing that people have to get over is that it's farming and
Yeah.
stuff happens and you can be the best manager in the entire universe and things die.
Right. And yeah, like that.
And it sucks.
Yeah, it seems devastating.
And
Like
sometimes you have to eat ice cream at 10:30 in the morning.
that makes sense to me. Like that's the day. That's the way that the day is gone. We are now eating ice cream from now until bedtime.
Yeah.
There will be no stopping of the ice cream. Yeah, it's been, I like Anna's, one of her rams, she had this super sweet ram, Muddy, and we think he was concussed to death by a not fully castrated wether, who was always super aggressive. And so after Muddy was found dead in the pen, then it was like, okay, we need to get rid of the other one. And it's like, and then you get the ones where they're like super annoying sheep, like they're just jerks.
Yeah.
Because all animals have different personalities, but then they have beautiful fleeces, so
Yeah.
you're kind of like, well, I guess we're stuck with.
This is thistle.
Yeah.
So this is our Rambouillet BFL, and everybody's like, "Oh, she's crazy. Why do we keep this?" And then this year's like has to like turn the clippers off and like reposition her like 16 times. And she's like, "I really don't like this one." I'm like, "I know, but that lady that's standing over there wants that fleece as soon as it comes off the creature, so we just sort of have to do this."
Oh man, it's so like nothing about it is simple ever.
No.
So, what do you think then is like an easy way of kind of like dipping your toe into the fiber shed without necessarily either like having to learn all about the different breeds and fleeces, or
Yeah.
like, you know, how do you engage other than just like people coming to you and saying, Laura, I want some of your sock yarn that
Right.
has no nylon and is great.
Yeah, yeah.
Like what's
So I think it depends on what your background is, right? So if you have a farm background, I think it's easier for you to get into raising sheep,
right.
right? And then you might have to learn the other stuff,
Yeah.
right? And it's totally been a learning journey for us, right? Because we were like knitting with like store-bought worsted weight yarn,
Totally.
and then we're like, okay. So then you take it to the mill, and like Donna at Wellington is like a magician.
Yeah.
She like puts her hand in the bag, and she's like, "This needs to be fingering," and you're like,
Wow.
"Sure, I completely defer to your expertise in this."
Wow.
Yeah, she is amazing.
That's super cool.
So I've kind of got it, so I get pretty close to where she thinks it should be now. Like,
Yeah.
So, but you need to have somebody like that
Yeah.
that can sort of help you with that stuff. Because yeah, I can raise an animal, that's fine, and I've got great vets and resources around to do that part. But I needed that like mentorship person that knew all of that stuff at the other end,
Right.
to take this wonderful raw stuff that I was bringing them and say, okay, is that washed enough? Do you want it cleaner than that, or what am I doing wrong with that, or like did
Right.
we shear at the right time, or is it too short, is it too long, or
Yeah.
so, you know, and that's a concern for me as we move forward, is there's not as many of those people
Right.
left,
Right.
right?
Because they're starting to get out of the biz, and then nobody's
Yeah.
stepping in to
Right.
replace them.
Right. And it's like a lifelong journey,
Right.
right? To
Yeah.
get to that magical part.
Where you can feel a fleece
You
and
just
say
feel
that's going to be
that's
fingering.
going to be fingering.
That's amazing to me.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh my god.
yeah.
I can't even. I'm still just trying to understand the differences between as I start to work with more of the different ones, and like I know that long wool is what you want for socks, and that if you're gonna use Shetland for socks because you desperately want to use that, you know, skein of Shetland that you got, then like you are doubling that up with some cotton thread. So you know, I'm starting to get to that point, but all of the, and especially the crossbreeding, I find totally fascinating.
Oh, it's
because,
totally fascinating.
like, I mean, it's like raising mutts, but like, and then everybody is still different. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
You're like, we know that we're mixing these two breeds together, but those two breeds are still going to create infinite types of,
Crosses.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah.
Like a science experiment constantly.
It is totally a science experiment constantly.
So what's been your favorite result? Like what was the best science experiment?
Well, I think this has been a fabulous science experiment,
Okay.
but I also think that black fleece that's up there is like, because that's really the first. So that yarn is the first from like the first group of lambs that I selected who was going to get bred with who, right?
Yeah.
And then that's the first fleece off that progeny.
Cool.
So
That's super cool.
we have this like super fantabulous, almost black Romney worsted weight.
That's gonna be amazing.
And it's the sample that I knit yesterday.
Okay.
And it's this stuff.
Yeah, that I'm like, I keep glancing over.
Yeah.
Because it's,
So
fantastic.
it's pretty
Like,
awesome.
oh my god. Oh.
And there's also a DK weight that I haven't washed yet. But it's
like this is
pretty-
gonna make the best sweater.
Yeah.
I'm holding it like not in this in the thing anymore. Oh, like to get, and this is a thing too, right? Is like getting a natural black
Yeah.
is so tricky. But and then this is like it's a natural black, but you could absolutely photograph it so beautifully because there's like
A little bit of
it's like the darkest possible charcoal,
yes.
which is the perfect shade as far as I'm concerned. Anything ever.
So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah. Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah.
But then, so do you think that those sheep are going to continue keeping their fleeces that dark? Because I know that often they lighten.
They
with age.
often lighten with age. Betsy is out there. She's the one that I started with that was the darkest.
Yeah.
And she's gotten a little lighter over the years, but not too much. So there's definitely a difference in how much they lighten depending on the individual.
Yeah.
Then I also have a small science experiment going on with Jocasta and Clementine because they're gray
Okay.
and they are getting lighter.
Okay.
So I knit that sweater with their fleece from last year, and then I had them put together again their fleeces this year
Oh,
as
cool.
worsted,
Yeah.
and then I'm keeping.
You're going to continue doing that.
So
to
I
see
have
each
so I
year you
have a
can
few
see-
skeins of last year's, and then
Yeah.
I'll keep a few skeins of this year, and then see what the progression is.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. Like just from like the nerdiest possible perspective, being able to just track each year. Okay, this is what you were this year. This is what you were
Yeah.
last year, and then like being able to track that potentially through their entire lives.
Yeah.
Like that's just amazing.
Yeah.
So
And then so Clementine's in this,
yeah.
and Peachy is in this, and Peachy is Clementine's daughter.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy too. Where they're just so different.
Yeah.
Like can people like that's not even close.
No.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you take yours to Wellington then?
Yes. So
Uh,
we do have the merino, the Rambouillet stuff that we have. We have to send it to Michigan.
Right.
So the stuff that we have back now is the straight Rambouillet,
Okay.
and it went to Michigan and came back.
Cool.
So it's a totally different beast.
Yeah.
Like it is very matte.
Yes. Yeah, there's like definitely less luster.
Yeah.
Significantly less.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, but it's a totally different beast.
Yeah. And like just the quality of it feels completely different from
Yeah.
even though they're both clearly a 2-ply. Am
This
I-
is a 3-ply.
That's a 3. So
Yeah.
this is how good I am is I don't know. This is also okay, so they're both
Yeah,
3-plies.
They're both 3-plies. This is one of them's woolen spun and one of them's worsted spun.
Okay.
And then this is a 2-ply that we had Donna make.
Okay.
This is Rito Arcot crossed with Ile-de-France.
My friend Christelle has the exact same thing.
So this was my niece's 4-H lamb from last year.
Oh my god. That's so cool.
So this past fall we sent Floydie up the road to make 4-H lambs because they wanted taller lambs. So we
Yeah.
sent the Rambouillet cross up
Right?
because he's tall. So now we'll have. They're gonna be like mutt sheep, but
Yeah.
they're like Rito Ile-de-France cross with Romney Rambouillet.
Wow.
So I'm interested to see what sort of that science experiment that is too.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I think that'll have some practicality for people that have meat sheep
Yeah.
and are interested in improving their fiber quality,
Right, yeah.
right? Because if we can actually get this whole fiber shed business going,
Yeah.
there's no reason that guys that have 100 sheep or 300 sheep can't start sort of
improving the fiber
improving the
quality.
fiber quality.
Totally.
So we bring our base up.
Yeah. Oh, that's super cool. And I mean, the crossing bit makes it so interesting because right now there's so much talk about breed specific, which, you
Is
know.
it loadedly?
Yeah, there's that. 'Cause that's what, I started doing research into just like the sheep that we have in Manitoba and realized that like the breed is actually like 17 different crosses of like a few other different breeds.
Yeah, it was just
And so-
done 50 years ago.
Exactly.
Instead
And so
of
that-
yesterday.
yeah, exactly. So like there's that bit of it. But then it's also this idea of, you know, breed specific being so much better. I feel like it's sort of like the idea of like purebred dogs where it's like, this is so much better, but then your German Shepherd has like hip dysplasia, whereas if you had a mutt, then that hip dysplasia wouldn't be as big of a concern. So like the breed specific, yeah, it might give you some nice qualities, but you are then potentially running into issues with the sheep's health. But then also those crosses give you really beautiful fleeces and yarns that then have different kinds of uses. Like
Yeah.
you can have a really soft wool that is then also a longer staple, so it's a sturdier wool. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So, and the other thing is that even within the breed,
Yeah.
there's so much variance,
Right.
right? Like, this is Romney, this is Romney, I have fingering up there that's Romney,
Yeah.
and it's all different,
Yeah.
right? Like, this is lovely,
Yes.
but if you look at these fleeces, they are much coarser than these fleeces.
Interesting.
Yeah. But it still makes a lovely yarn.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's like a super cozy, like this will be a really comfortable, like that actually feels kind of silky.
Yeah. So it just depends on, like the hand spinners get a little bit hoity-toity a bit
I've
about
noticed
stuff.
that, and we don't have quite the same level of hand spinners. Like, I mean, level in terms of skill, for sure, whatever. But like in terms of the hoity-toityness of Manitoba versus Ontario, and I think it is just like people having access to more breeds here. It's just been easier because it's been more organized for longer. But there's totally some snobbery that goes on that is like, but like that is that snobbery actually coming out of experience and expertise, or just because somebody told you that that was what was supposed to happen?
Yeah.
And so, and like I'm not a hand spinner, so I don't actually know.
Well, and
like,
neither am I, but
so not good at. I'm just like I'm gonna try this, and if it's stickier, I'm actually happier. But I mean,
so
like
I have two BFLs out in the barn.
Yeah.
And they're both gray.
Yeah.
So the inclination is to try to put their fleeces together, right?
Right.
And
It's a terrible.
it's a shame because one of them is much coarser than the other.
Right.
Like Milkweed's fleece is to die for.
Yeah.
It's fine, it's lustrous, and then you look at Monarch's fleece and you're like, what have you been doing? Get your shit together. Like, it's coarser and you're like, huh.
And now I gotta mix those two together, and I'm gonna like bring down milkweed.
Yeah. But so they're both BFLs,
Right.
and so if I just marketed them as
BFL.
BFL,
it's
then
like,
people would buy it just because it said BFL.
Right. But as soon as you're like BFL and Rideau, which like I think people are starting to get a little bit more familiar with Rambouillet at least.
Yeah.
And like maybe Romney, but there's definitely still different breeds that people are like, I don't recognize that name, therefore
It must be not any good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. Like
Yeah. And there's so much, like even like in the Romneys, there's a lot of variation. In the BFLs that I have, there's a lot of variation.
Yeah.
The crosses are like, whoo.
Yeah.
You can get all ends of the spectrum, right?
Right. So like there's kind of general like this is how this fleece should behave, but then who knows what actually then happens in real life. Like I guess if you mix enough things together, then eventually you do get that kind of general.
Yeah, it's like a breed standard in dogs, right?
Right, yeah.
You can still have, like a Basset Hound that's taller than it's supposed to be. It's still a Basset Hound.
Right, yeah, exactly. Doesn't make it like
Doesn't make it
worse.
like
it's
just not
different.
in the box that somebody put a box around this thing that it's supposed to be in.
Right. It's just, I find, I'm actually, our conversation is like totally where my brain has been lately. I'm really excited to talk to somebody who because you're a farmer first, and so that's that's a super cool thing, because to be a farmer first and also be so specifically about figuring out you want it because you want the good fiber.
Yeah.
Whereas the other conversations I've been having so far have either been fiber people first who just figure out how to do the farming.
Right.
Or people who are farmers who are this makes sense as a byproduct, and I know knitters, or I am a knitter, but I'm not so intense about it that I'm gonna, or I'm at too large of a scale to be doing a fiber flock at the size of the scale. So it becomes a byproduct. So this is a totally fascinating conversation to me, because it's all of those nerdy bits but you understand all of it from within the sciencey side of things.
Yeah. Well, my background's in science, so
This makes sense.
everything's a science experiment.
Just test tubes everywhere.
Test tubes, but not test tubes.
Yeah. So did we actually answer what's the how do people engage with the Fiber Shed?
Oh, I think
Learning
I
more.
started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we went on a
And then
tangent.
we went on a
That was
tangent.
great.
So I think I said it depends on where you're starting from, right?
Right, yeah.
So the farmers can be farmers, that's
Yeah.
fine, and then you can learn the fiber part of it.
Yeah.
I think it's harder, I think, for people that are fiber people to learn the farming part of it,
Yeah.
would be my guess.
Yeah.
And
not necessarily maybe you don't even necessarily I'm somebody who it's sort of when I see my friends with kids. I'm I love children. I at this point in my life don't want to raise children, because you never get to turn it off. You
Yes.
never get to have a day off.
Yeah.
You don't get to just say okay, actually I'm tired today.
Yeah.
You're gonna go away for 6 months.
Yeah.
And then I'll have energy again and I'll come back. It's with farming, I'm we go to Fiberfest meetings and Anna will sit and she'll pull out her sweater and she's I haven't knit since our last meeting. I'm that was 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I'm I don't want to spend 6 weeks without knitting because I'm too busy raising my sheep.
Yeah.
So how do we kind of get started when it seems everything just feels so huge, and how do you even dip your toe in?
Right. I think that, for the ones of us that are doing it,
Yeah.
the biggest thing is your support,
Yeah.
right? Because, when we've been up all night and somebody died, and
Yeah.
when somebody sends me a message and says, I knit this with your wool, it's an automatic pick-me-up,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
And it's we don't do enough of that
Yeah.
in general in
Celebrate.
society.
Yeah, absolutely.
Check this out. I knit this with your wool. Isn't it awesome? And
Yeah.
I'm yes. That is so cool. Those little things that only take a few minutes
Yeah.
totally make a difference for us,
Yeah, totally.
right?
Yeah.
Because you don't know what kind of a day we're having,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And I might not have knit that entire week because there's a shitstorm going on out there.
Right, yeah, totally.
Right? And if somebody can send me a picture of something even that they've started, or they've swatched it, or they've decided what pattern they're gonna make with it,
Yeah.
all of those things make a difference.
Right.
Right? It's just that little bit of encouragement, and you're oh, okay, we're doing the right thing.
Yeah,
It's going to kill me, but it's the right thing, right?
Yeah.
Somebody else believes in this crazy thing that I've dreamed up to do.
Right, yeah. And then also I think having that support also helps against all the naysayers who are who don't understand it because
Yeah.
they're not actually involved in it.
Yeah.
And who are well, this is obviously a bad thing because
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up the vegans because and not every vegan is like this. I know
Yeah.
lots of vegans who are very conscious of the fact that there is no simple solution. Veganism works well for their body and their lifestyle, and they're able to access it in a way that is healthy for them. And they also understand that their choices don't automatically make things better, and it's that you choosing not to eat local meat, and you're going to get your protein from beans or tofu instead, means that somewhere else that crop is impacting that environment and has maybe deforested an area and caused a bunch of
Right.
other animals that are not cute, cows, to lose their homes and to die as a result of that. But the ones where it's just like, well, no, automatically you are in the wrong.
Yeah.
And like, how dare you shear that sheep? It looks terrified. And it's like, you have to shear them, whether they're a fiber sheep or a meat sheep.
Yeah.
And like, if we don't want to use them, then sheep just have to die. That is basically what you're saying. Because at this point, like, we can't just go back and undo thousands of years of genetics in order to make sheep completely unreliant on humans.
Yeah.
Like, they will die. And so what you are actually advocating for by us not shearing sheep is that all sheep die.
Yes.
But I think it's so easy for us to get into those like very black and white, this extreme or that extreme, and not recognizing that all of it is super complicated.
Yes.
And if we don't have a background in it, just automatically assuming that
it's wrong.
Yeah, it just doesn't even make sense.
No. And if you have a question, then ask somebody that knows.
Yeah, totally.
Don't just Google it.
Yeah.
Like, Google is fantastic. We can learn lots of things at Google. You can learn all the new stitches in the world, all the new cast-ons. Go for it.
Yeah.
Right? But if you have a question about sheep production,
ask a farmer.
Ask a farmer.
Yeah.
Come out to the farm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And see it. Like,
yeah.
Rather than just assuming that the PETA video that you saw, that's how it all is everywhere.
Totally. I think, honestly, the PETA video, there was a thing that they did a few years ago, not even a few years ago, like, I at that point, because I was vegan for a while, and I was vegetarian for a while, and then my body did not function anymore. It worked fine for a few years, and then it was not healthy for me. So I started eating meat again, and so, like, by that point, I'd also been doing a lot of research into food politics and sustainability and like all of how everything is so nuanced. And so, like, literally, unless you're raising it yourself, you can't say that it's a perfect solution. And even if you are raising it yourself, it's still not a perfect solution. But by that point, I was already like, I knew that they did things to the extreme and usually like to distort facts. But the moment where I was like, wow, you guys just blatantly lie, was when they put out the campaign with a dude holding a bloody lamb after shearing. And I was like, you really don't understand anything, because also, like, it's clearly plastic, but like, no shearer would ever, who like has any idea what they're doing, even if they've never sheared a sheep before and this is their very first sheep, they know not to do that because A, the sheep is not dead at the end of it, they're getting a haircut, and if you've caused something to get that bloody, they are going to be freaking out so much that you've just made your work exponentially harder. Like, that is not how shearing goes. And so it was a campaign against wool.
Yeah.
It wasn't even about like don't eat sheep. It was against the use of wool as a product.
Yeah.
And so it was like, here's this like dead lamb that's like covered in blood.
Yeah.
And it's like that, okay, so you guys actually don't know what you're talking about in this moment. And you don't care to. And I think that's where I get frustrated, is when people are so stuck in a headspace that they don't even want to consider having a dialogue with people on the other side who actually have experience in it. Like, I have zero interest in engaging with people who believe that someone's human rights are not human rights. Like, in that case, no, I don't want to have a dialogue with you. But when it's something about, like, you actually don't understand the way that this process happens, and you aren't even willing to ask questions, then, like, what's the point at that point? Like, and why are you so vehement that your viewpoint must be right and that you need to destroy all of these other people and their livelihoods in order to be proven right? Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
No, not at all.
So, yeah. Just went on. I feel like that happens for like a couple of episodes. It's like, and now we will go on a tangent rant about, and it's like, I mean, if you don't want to use wool or like new wool, there's so many other options, right? Like,
absolutely.
You can use nettle fibers. You can recycle wool. Like, really, if we want to get down to it, the most energy efficient, or maybe not like physically energy efficient, but like the most environmentally like neutral option is to reuse things that have already been made.
Yeah.
So like if you don't want to use wool because you care about the environment, why don't you like recycle a wool sweater
Yeah.
and use that wool so that there's been no more production at all that has
Period.
happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like to use your guys' wool.
Well, we appreciate that.
So can we I mean, there's still a couple of questions, but I am curious about, because your guys' yarn is the first one that I've used for sock yarn specifically that is 100% animal fibers. There is no nylon, there's no bamboo that has been turned into fiber. It is strictly animal fibers, so it's mohair and Romney.
Yes.
And it works awesome. And I think that, you know, if we were in the UK, then this would be a conversation where people are like, okay, we're going to like tune out right now. But yeah, like in North America, it's something that is like so foreign to us at this point because we do have that gap in fiber knowledge.
Right.
So I'm curious about how you figured that out.
Well, I take no credit for figuring that out because I didn't. So the people that I bought the flock from, this was their recipe.
Okay, cool.
And Donna had done the wool for them.
Yeah.
And she said, are we doing sock the same? And I said, the 70-30 mix? And she's like, yep. And I said, yes, ma'am. We are just going to carry right on that.
Awesome.
So Donna actually raises the mohair.
Okay.
So it's all a super local product.
Yeah.
And like the miles traveled is like nothing. It's like here to Elora. I mean, we were in Elora yesterday, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think that's really a super cool story.
Yeah.
Right? So it's 70% Romney fiber, and then she puts 30% of her mohair in.
Yeah.
And we get durability out of the mohair.
Yeah.
And it gets a little bit of extra sheen, a little bit of extra softness, and
Yeah.
I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, it's so cool. Like, it's such a comfortable sock too. Like, it's just, and I don't know, there's like, I just knit the sample and didn't want to completely destroy them before we did photos with them, so I haven't like worn them out hiking.
Yeah.
But I can already just tell from the way that the fiber was behaving as I was working with it that they are going to be awesome for like gross sweaty feet in a way that all of the, I mean, like I've worked with oodles of really wonderful indie dyers who have done really beautiful work on sock blends, either like 80-20 blends or just superwash merino and no nylon.
Yeah.
And they're great, but I can tell that there's going to be, like, these are the socks that I'm going to reach for when I'm going hiking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my feet, I don't want to get grosser than they already are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of the natural part of it, right? Like, there's not going to be any of that nylon to get stinky and, like, do all of that stuff, right? They're just going to breathe the whole time and carry on.
Ugh, I love it. So if you need sock yarn, then definitely come to you guys.
So yeah, we'll have 3 colors. We'll have the natural cream color, and we sort of have this like silvery gray color, and then this medium gray color, which is what you knit the original sample out of.
I love it. Cool. So what's the next step for you at this point? Like, what are you kind of looking at short term and longer term?
Well, this summer we're hoping to bring in a purebred Romney ram from BC.
Cool.
Because we're at the point where we need to diversify our genetics.
Yes.
So we have Sirius, so our little BFL ram.
Yes, a bunch of the sheep. I keep looking at the camera as though I'm in the shot right now. I'm not. A bunch of the sheep are named after Harry Potter characters, which is like extra exciting for me.
Yes, so Harry's the one in his silver, the silver sock yarn.
Yeah.
And Harry has basically his own fan group on Instagram. Every time there's a picture or anything of Harry, everybody loves Harry. So he's a pretty cool dude. So now we have Sirius, so we crossed him with all of Harry's daughters from last year, basically. So now we need somebody else.
Right.
So we hope
What's his name going to be?
I don't know yet. It depends.
Yeah.
I've not even seen a picture of him yet.
Fair enough.
It's like the mystery man. It's arriving. So that is sort of our project for the next little term.
Yeah.
We're gonna finish up this project here, this construction project, and get our fencing back together.
Right. Yes.
And get that straightened away, and then we'll sort of see where we're at. I think we could keep a few more ewe lambs again this year,
Yeah.
and expand a little bit, and then we'll sort of be at our capacity.
Right. So how many are you thinking is going to be capacity for you?
I think about 45.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Based on the barn space we have now
Yeah, that's fair.
and that kind of stuff.
And the fact that you have like many other creatures also on the farm.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's gonna be our plan for now, and we'll just see how it goes. And like I said, it's a whole big science experiment.
Yeah. I love it. So, in your ideal world, what does the fiber shed look like?
From my perspective, like, I'm really fortunate in that we produce a product that I don't have a lot of carryover,
Right.
right? So like literally the show we're going to in a few weeks, it's going to be like 98% new stock because I have nothing left,
Amazing.
which is totally fabulous.
Yeah.
And lots of credit to Fibershed for organizing events like Landmade and things like that, which are really good at connecting consumers with the farmers and all of that.
Yeah.
And our Instagram people are fabulous.
Yeah.
We shipped yarn to Saudi Arabia.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Also, how is it not hot? I mean, I know absolutely nothing about their climate, but in my head, it's really hot.
Yeah. They're like, they're from North America and they're there, and
That's amazing.
it was totally. They sent me their address and I was like, can you tell me where in the world this is? Because I don't, like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, is there a country on this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was really cool.
Oh, wow.
So I think Fibershed, I think we're moving in a good direction here in Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting a little bit more organized. So we're going to have a good AGM this summer, and getting sort of the membership stuff sorted out, and new website. So I think all of those things are great.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to start doing some more outreach and education, which is what we need to be doing.
Yeah.
Not only for farmers and people that are interested in being producers,
Yeah.
but also for consumers.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, so that they know that there's another option, and if you choose to knit with nylon, that's fine.
Yeah.
You want to knit with acrylic fibers, it's totally fine.
Yeah. At least you've made a conscious decision.
But know that there are local people producing really nice local yarns that you could knit with,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that education piece is just huge
Yeah.
for us moving forward, and we're getting there. But
Cool.
it's like, a million cogs in the wheel, and
Yes.
you got to get them all sort of spinning in the right direction in the right time, and
Like the impossible task that we still choose to undertake.
yeah, exactly. So
Cool.
I think that's it, and then just getting people, like, the biggest thing is, like, when we're at the fairs and stuff, is getting people to touch it,
Yeah.
and then as soon as they touch it, they're good.
They're totally sold.
Yeah, but it's like they walk by the booth and they don't want to touch it.
That's so funny.
And Robin's like, touch the yarn, and then they're like, oh.
Yeah.
So I don't know what their expectation is. Like, they think it's going to be crunchy or
Right.
itchy or what.
Yeah.
But
Well, and I think that like, no shade on Briggs and Little, but like, I think that there is
right,
that it is a harsher, and I don't know what
rustic.
Rustic is. That's true. That is the buzzword right now.
Yes, rustic.
And so because that's been kind of our baseline for a really long time of like Canadian wool, then people just kind of assume that that's what everything feels like. And I
Yeah.
have no idea what breeds they're using. I noticed as well that there's a couple of other Nova Scotia based, they're I think New Brunswick, but like maritime based farms that have kind of a similar feel. Fleece and Harmony is more like your guys's, but there's one, Lismore, that's definitely more of that, like, that wool works really well when you're a fisherman and you need a sweater that's going to repel that water. Like, there's a reason that those sheep have those kinds of fleeces.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think,
And I think that's totally what it is, right? It's
Yeah.
the environment.
absolutely. Yeah.
And it's like when you go to Shetland,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's a similar feel.
Yeah.
because that's the environment that the sheep are in.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's then what you want to be wearing on your body.
Absolutely. And it's like going Iceland.
Yeah,
It's the
exactly.
same thing.
Exactly. Lopi's totally the same thing, where it's like, this feels scratchy. It's like, well, it's because that's maybe not what you're putting right next to your skin, or if
But
it
that's
is,
what you want when it's minus 25 and the wind blows. That's what you wanna wear.
And like, if you do want it, then you just spin it in a different way. Like, there are ways to get
Yeah.
really soft Icelandic,
Yeah.
just like not the Alathos stuff,
Yeah.
because they're like, this is what we're gonna use.
Yeah.
So
But when I want a sweater to go to the barn when it's minus 25,
that's what you're grabbing.
that's what I'm grabbing.
Totally.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I
If
think
it's only minus 10, then I'll go with the Shetland.
yes. We've got like our
I'm a
levels
Canadian.
of- yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
how freaking cold is it outside?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Cool. Is there anything that you would like to say as we kind of like wrap up? Anything that you'd like to impart on the viewing audience?
I'm just really glad that you came.
I am too.
I had a great day yesterday at the dyeing thing,
Yeah.
and I'm glad you could come here and
Me too.
get some pictures of Mr. Jamie. And
Yeah. Oh yeah. Bunch of the sheep are also named after Outlanders. So like, kind of across the board, we've got all of the best names.
Yes.
Awesome.
And if people want to help name the sheep, then usually I put them on Instagram, and they.
Awesome.
So we try to get sort of a help name the sheep thing.
Perfect. Crowdsource.
Crowdsource, yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. I will turn this off now.